Welcome to this edition of Peak Performers Podcast with your host, Thor Conklin. Thor will be sharing the necessary tools, strategies, and psychology you'll need to become a peak performer in any area of your life or business.
Today's guest is Andy Marshall, CEO and owner of A. Marshall Family Foods, as well as the genius behind grocery brand Puckett's and the restaurant New Deacon South. Andy is a decorated restaurateur and grocer, having won the Spirit of America Award for Entrepreneurship, Nashville's Best in Business Award, in addition to being on the Inc. 5000 for his fourth year in a row. So if you want to take your business to the next level, or just want some tips, tricks, and tools on how to create an experience for your clients, then keep it locked. You won't want to miss Thor's interview with this award-winning guest.
Andy, thank you very much for joining us today. I am looking forward to this interview, and it's funny, when I was going through your bio and everything, it brought back some like shivering memories because you started out in the grocery business. And before I started doing what I do now, I used to work up in that big city, New York City, and I was doing private equity. And it was without fail. If we wanted to lose money, we just made sure that we invested in grocery chains.
Absolutely. The margins are so thin. I mean, how could you make money?
Oh, I mean, it's unbelievable. I remember going in and talking to the CEO of, I was in Oklahoma. It had gone bankrupt so many times it wasn't even funny. I forget the name of the chain, big national chain based out of Oklahoma. And their workers' compensation costs were going up something like $1 million. And, you know, they were having trouble with people slipping and falling on grapes in the grocery aisles, in the fruit, the fruit section. Something about grapes in grocery stores and floors do not work well. I learned that.
No doubt.
I remember them sitting there and saying, okay, we've got $1 million that we need to fund. That means we have to sell like $50 million in groceries to have enough money to pay $1 million. I mean, the margins are really, really tough.
Absolutely.
Make it work.
Well, it's tough. I mean, everything matters, right? So when the margins are that thin, you watch everything. But, in my career in the grocery business, when I was hitting 1.5%, sometimes 2% net margins, and people were touting me as a hero in the industry, I really got concerned with what the future was in the grocery business, because it doesn't feel 1.5 doesn't feel good enough for all that you invest, the equipment that you need, the inventory that you need, and the effort you put into it day to day. It just didn't seem like it was a bright future for us.
Yeah.
But
you made it work, and then you decided, hey, there's a better way. Let me figure out how to get rid of this thing and move on to restaurants. But before you did that, did I read correctly in your bio that you incorporated live music into the grocery stores?
Well, no, I did all kinds of things. I won the Spirit of America Award in entrepreneurship in the grocery business by doing all these crazy things, trying to attract customers and trying to make a loyal customer, trying to make advocates, which is tough to do in the grocery business because right across the street, if they run sugar a dime cheaper, I see my customers going right across the street. Yeah. So, I had circus in the parking lot. I had professional wrestlers come for autographs. I did everything, whatever it took to entertain my customers. And that's really ultimately that kind of led me out of the grocery side of it.
But it's, I mean, what a great experience. And I'm kind of a similar entrepreneur. It's like, let's just try something. Let's figure out what it is. People bring us in all the time and they're like, well, what do you think? I said, well, let's try this. And they're like, will that work? Yeah. I have no idea. Let's just try it.
Absolutely. Sometimes you just have to be out there and be first at something. Yeah. And just see how it goes.
Yeah. I interviewed a guy, Jesse Cole, and he owns the Savannah Bananas. It's a amateur baseball team. He wears a yellow tuxedo every day of the week.
Whatever it takes.
Exactly. He's a showman. He goes, it's not really a baseball. It's a circus. And we just kind of happen to play baseball at the same time. I love how you started off this discussion. Everything matters. Yeah. If there's one thing, and I never really thought about it in these terms, if there's one thing and we do profitability consulting. That's what we do. We go in and we help people maximize their profitability. And if there's probably one thing that we could convey to them, that everything matters.
Absolutely.
And what are some of the things that you learned in the grocery business that, a lot of businesses just overlook and they don't concentrate on?
Yeah. So in the grocery business, you're right. We're talking about the margins being so thin. I had to learn. I kind of was raised in the business. I started when I was 14 years old, racking bottles in the back room. So Coca-Cola, Pepsi, RC Cola could come pick up their bottles back in the day when there was 10-cent return on bottles, and that would keep a young man busy on a weekend. So I worked my way all the way through the business. But as I got into management and then ownership at age 26, I had to learn a lot on my own. And part of that was that everything matters, that every little detail matters, that it mattered. Your pricing mattered to the customer. Your payroll mattered. Your rent mattered. Everything mattered. So I spent a lot of time really looking at the fine details of my P&L, trying to make it work. Because when I was hitting 1.5 and people were talking about it, being a successful business, I felt like 1.5 should be 2.5. I always felt like it should be more. So I was always looking in the little dark corners of the P&L to see what could really matter. And of course, you learn over time, there's usually a couple of really basic things that make the biggest difference. You can spend a lot of time on things that don't make a lot of difference, but your prime cost, or what really makes a difference, that's your cost of goods and your payroll. Those are the two biggest things that can make the biggest swing for you.
And you have an inventory that is constantly getting bad. The further, every minute that ticks by. I've got a clock. I'll be able to lift this up maybe somewhere. It's there somewhere. There you go. It's a clock.
Yeah.
And I keep down the minutes and the seconds and the hours of each month, because every single moment matters.
Yeah.
2 minutes ago is gone forever. You've got to pay attention to the details, and I think so often business owners fail to do that.
And absolutely. And I found out you don't make profit by looking back. You got to constantly look forward. Yeah. So that 2-minute lost is 2 minutes gone, but I'm looking at the next 2 minutes.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I love what you say. You're looking at the fine details of the P&L. So for everyone listening out there, if you don't know what P&L stands for, we're not going to tell you. Figure it out, and you better learn it. Because if you're running a business and you don't understand the finer details of your P&L, you will end up dead.
Yeah.
You won't be in business, period.
Yeah. And hopefully you can get it just to a P.
Yes. I like that. The new business financial, the P.
Yeah,
yes, absolutely. We spent a lot of time talking about the P. When you started to shift into the restaurants, what did you learn that, looking back now, experience is hindsight is 2020. What are some of the things that you learned? If I was a young restaurateur coming to you, and saying, look, tell me what to avoid, what to go after. Give us some of your wisdom in that area.
Right. Well, in the transition of going from grocery stores to restaurant, my transition was, somewhat of a passion move. I just had run this gamut with the grocery stores. I thought it would be all I'd ever do. And I actually made that statement in a newspaper article when I was kind of at the pinnacle of my grocery business. And several years later, like 15 years later, the same interviewer came to me and wanted to write an article on me on the restaurant side. And he said, here, I want you to read this. And that statement that this is all I know, this is all I'll ever do, was you can't ever look at it that way. You never know what's ahead of you. You just keep looking for the next opportunities. And for me, it was getting out of the grocery business. I had 4 grocery stores. I was deemed, successful in the industry. I was president of the Tennessee Grocers Association. I was national vice president of the Piggly Wiggly Association at the time. I had a lot going for me on the outside, but on the inside, there was something missing. And for me, it's that true desire to please people. I am a people pleaser at heart. And I talked about all those things I did in the grocery store with the parking lot carnivals and the cookouts and all this, putting up a wrestling ring in the middle of a grocery store, all these crazy things I did them to try to satisfy that need to want to please and make people happy. Well, I learned really early that in the grocery business, the next ad is what pleases people. It was never about all these other things. There was never a relationship business. And so it basically led me out of the business, and I found the restaurant business, which is all about people pleasing. The hospitality industry is all about pleasing people, and it's instant gratification, and I've just thrived in that environment. I've just loved it. So when you talk about advice, you got to find your passion. We've all kind of heard that. That's nothing new. That's nothing earth-shaking. But finding your passion and then having the guts to put on the brakes and go for your passion is two different things. And at age 35, I did that. Kind of stopped in the pinnacle of a career and just reset myself and started all over. And I had to teach myself the restaurant business. So it wasn't an easy track. Where I'm at now, it was a journey. It didn't just instantly go from being successful from the grocery business to being successful in the restaurant business. I had to take my lumps.
Well, yeah, this is your third year on the Inc. 5000. And, a lot of people look at this and like, oh, look at this overnight success. He's like, last 2 years, read the bio, right?
That's right. That's right.
The beginning years.
Yeah, and most young entrepreneurs that come to me that are wanting to pick my brain, they want to look at me right where I'm at right now and want to know how to get there. Yeah. And I take them back to the days of when I got up at 3:30 every morning and I made biscuits every day, cooked the breakfast, opened the doors, served people, cooked lunch, then left my business in the hands of my associates, and I went and coached soccer with my kids, and then I'd come back and I'd close the restaurant. All those things that I had to do just to make it successful. I had to put on my yellow suit every day and get out there in front of the folks and make it happen. But yeah. I sold Christmas trees at Christmas. I put out fresh flowers in the spring. I did whatever it takes. And we're talking about a restaurant, but I was doing whatever it took to get off the ground and get my traction.
Yeah. It's so interesting because as I interview successful entrepreneurs, that's the one thing that is a common thread, a common denominator with everybody. And it doesn't matter if they're a billionaire at this point. It doesn't matter where they are. But if they're successful at this point, it's because they got in there and they grinded away for hours when no one was looking. They were doing what was difficult.
Yeah. Thor, I've learned a lot through that too. At that time, early in my career, I lived by a motto that somebody told me: if it's to be, it's up to you. So if it's to be, it's up to me kind of motto kind of wore heavy early in my career. And I really caught myself almost slowing my progress down by trying to do everything.
Yeah.
And I had to learn along the way that I had to entrust people. I had to spend more time coaching, teaching, and training than I did actually doing the physical work myself. And that's really when the traction started turning. That's when I could trust people that would allow me to grow. That I could invest in people instead of investing in time.
Yeah. Yeah. No question. As a matter of fact, when I did my 2018 planning, that's the one thing that came out. The theme for the year is, if it's to be, it's up to we.
Yeah.
And I realized that I'm one of those guys that if there's a brick wall, it's going to get taken care of. It's going down. I'm going through it. I can do it. And of course that builds up, a belief system that, you can do it, you will do it. Mm-hmm. And you feel good. You kind of feel kind of macho about doing it yourself. And I realized that, look, Thor, you've got a team here. We can go further, faster if we're doing we versus me.
Absolutely.
And it's been I'm still working. I'm a work in process. But I realized that really makes sense. And you know where I trained with some Navy SEALs a couple of years ago.
Oh, cool.
And these guys are just incredible, incredible guys. And every single one of them, their motto is that you can't get it done by yourself. It's all about the team. And it was amazing because there were fit, guys there. I was the old guy. I was always at the end. But at some point during, the 2.5, 3 days, one of them broke down. They didn't have any more. And you had to take their sandbag off their shoulder. And they just needed to walk for a little bit. So it's fascinating how it kind of ebbed and flowed. So what's next?
Wow, what is next? So, you just talked about your planning for this year and the motto y'all came out with. For us, it's a year of results, right? We've grown and we've grown and we've grown, and now I've said, okay, let's focus on what we've got. Let's get really good at what we're doing, and let's build our staff up. As you grow, you can catch yourself in kind of outgrowing your staffing. And staffing is a real issue in our industry right now. So we're slowing it down a bit to make sure that we're focused on results, and then let the results and let the team building direct our next steps. So, really this year, it's about focusing, getting better at each location, and then let the future growth kind of come out of the results of 2018.
Taking care of the small stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah. You can't just keep running. At some point, you got to take care of what you've already earned, and take care of the investments you already have on the ground.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. People, they're the ones that make the experience and the product they put on the table for your customers. But, I think of my favorite restaurants, my favorite places to go. It has nothing to do with the food. It has to do with the experience. How I feel when I walk in the door, and I'm immediately recognized, and I'm welcomed, and I'm treated better than probably I should be for the the amount of time I spent. They make you feel special. It takes a certain type of person to be able to make that happen. What do you look for in people, and how do you find the best?
Yeah, so this is widely known throughout our company. We seek people with the servant's heart. That's where we start. When we're interviewing people, they may not have the skills, they may not have ever been in our industry. We can teach the skills, but what we can't teach and what we can't change is somebody's heart. We may be able to make a difference, but ultimately their true stripes show back up. So we look for people with a servant's heart. We look for people that truly desire to please people, and that's where we start. And that's really been a big part of our competitive advantage is that motto. And every interviewer knows it. Every level of our restaurants know it, that's what we seek first.
And do you do that through a series of questions, through psychological profiling? How do you find that?
Yeah. So it's a matter of question. It's a matter of listening more than talking during the interview, and letting the person kind of express themselves and what truly makes them happy. We ask those questions: what makes you happy? What are frustrations for you? We ask those sort of things, and we just let their character kind of reveal itself. And our folks are quick to pick on people that would make a great teammate, or ones that may be disruptive.
Yeah, I think it always comes down to the people. You can have a subpar plan, you can have a subpar product, but if you have great people, you go a long, long way.
Absolutely. Yeah, we entrust everything to our people.
Yeah, and you got to. Just recently I invested with someone here in Atlanta. I invested in a restaurant. I said I would never invest in a restaurant. It's like one of those things. I'm like teaching my kids. I'm like, okay, now let me just tell you, I'm doing this, but you got to be careful. It's an industry that has a difficult track record. It's to be successful, and that's why I'm saying hats off to you for making this thing work. But the reason I did is that the person that is running it, he was chef of the year here in Atlanta a couple of years back. But I'm investing in the guy.
Absolutely.
Not the concept, not anything else. And you seem like you're cut from a cloth that is really dedicated to taking care of not only your own people, but taking care of the customers. What are some of your character traits that you attribute for your success?
Well, I've said it already, but it's being a people pleaser. I love to see people happy, and I'm willing to go to great lengths to make that, to have that encounter with somebody. So that's probably the number one. I think I'm a likable person, so I'm real approachable, and I'm real at ease at approaching people at my restaurant. But I build a lot through community too. So we're extremely involved in our community. We kind of give to get kind of philosophy. We talk about that a lot. Sometimes in charitable contributions, it doesn't always make great business sense, but sometimes you just do what's best for the community, and then it comes back to reward you. So we look at that aspect too. So I think it just really gets to the core of who I am and what drives me. I'm a man of faith, and I love to be around people that are happy and joyful, and I like to spread the same.
Yeah, you have a very infectious energy about you.
Thank you.
You do. I mean, it's like, I want to come home for dinner.
Absolutely.
As I was going through this,
let's make that happen.
We're recording this, in the afternoon. I'm going through. I'm like, well, that looks good. I'm getting hungry.
Yes.
I like that. If you had, let me rephrase this. In 2008, we went through a very difficult time. 2008, 9.
Ooh, yeah.
What did you find in the restaurant business? What was going on? Were people cutting back and not going as often? Were they using that as their entertainment? What happened to your business?
Yeah. Well, it's no secret that we grew during that period. I mean, it was a time of growth for us. My theory behind that is that people were still going to go out. They just weren't going to spend as much as they used to. So we wanted to be in the comfort food realm. We wanted to be in a place where people could come and feel the laughter and joy no matter what was going on in their life. And so we had a trickle down effect. We're a family-owned, family-run restaurant that offers, kind of a moderate price. So we work on turns more than we work on profit margin. So the higher-end restaurants struggled. There's no doubt about it. They struggled. People were coming less often and sometimes not coming at all. And you saw some very high-end restaurants doing things that they said they would never do, like put a hamburger on their menu and things like that. But for those that didn't adjust, they lost market share during that time, and people like us were benefits of that, where people wanted to get out, they just weren't going to spend as much, and so that middle price range and lower picked up some volume during that time, and we certainly did, and we treated the people. I told all my staff was, people aren't coming in here to hear your problems. They're coming in here to have an experience, to laugh, and to forget about whatever else may be going on right now. So let's make it fun. And we did that during that period and focused on that, and we grew tremendously during that period.
Did you notice, was there any shift in alcohol sales? First of all, do you sell alcohol in your restaurants?
We do, yes.
Was there any shift in alcohol sales during that period? Was that a higher? I think I drank a little bit.
It went higher. Right. Yeah. No, nothing significant changes. Nothing that told us that, oh my gosh, people are drinking more, or drinking less. It pretty much stayed in flow with the food
okay.
sales.
Yeah, I'd read something. I guess 2011, 2012, and it talked about how the movie industry and the casual food, the comfort food industry was doing really well because they weren't going and spending a lot of money, but they still wanted to be entertained. And the movies gave them a chance to kind of escape. And the same thing with, the restaurants. They still wanted to go out. They wanted to have that experience. They just didn't want to spend a lot of money doing it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Which one's your favorite concept?
Oh my, that's like, which is my favorite child, right?
All right, this will just be between us. We won't tell anybody.
Well, there's no doubt that the Puckett's brand, the Puckett's Grocery, is kind of fueling the rest of our growth. Okay. And so that I have a real affinity for the Puckett's Grocery brand. It's the one that continues to grow. We have 5 of those now. And then we have 4 other one-offs right now that may prove to do more of them. I don't know. but it's usually the last one that we're doing because it needs the most nurturing, the most love, most caring. And Deacon's New South is our latest launch. It's a dry aging southern restaurant, so we've got a dry aging room. We're taking some of the concepts of Chicago meats and bringing them here to Nashville, and then the Art Deco of New York City, and kind of blended those two, Chicago and New York, and put it right in downtown Nashville. It's a fabulous restaurant, and right now, I couldn't think of a better place I'd like to be or eat than at Deacon's New South. It's a fun concept too.
And it sounds like the price point on that is higher.
It is.
Okay.
It is, because you're dry aging, right?
Yeah.
And you're losing 30% of your meat's weight. But even our hamburgers are dry aged, and we're making our own hot dogs from dry aged meat. So I mean, we're doing everything 100% from scratch. It's just an amazing job that our staff is doing there. Very cool.
When you were saying dry aging, I was thinking we have Chops here in Atlanta.
Right. Love Chops.
Yeah, dry aging. And I equate to dry, here at Chops, when we talk about that restaurant, I think about money just leaving my wallet in large increments.
Right. The tomahawk steak and the country fried lobster.
Yes. Yes. All of that is really good, but it's at least, $1.25 a head, when you're done. It's like, how did I just spend $125 on dinner?
Right. Yeah, we kind of position ourselves to kind of be below the Jeff Ruby's and the Bob Steakhouse and places like Chops. We kind of positioned ourselves by putting on composed Southern meals in there too, to be positioned below them, but higher than our Pucketts. So, but we're not far from them. You just can't do it without dry aging and be inexpensive.
And the Pucketts, what's driving the success there? What do you think the secret to success in that?
Yeah, I think it's the experience. It is that hometown place that everybody knows your name when you come in. It's when Pam sees you coming through the door, she knows you like half sweet, half unsweet tea, so she meets you at your table with it and things like that. It's all about our people. It's all about the experience. Music has always been a component of that, but music is not a successful business plan, right? It's just an additive to the experience, and it actually costs to do music. So a lot of people say, well, we love the music, love the experience, but it's the experience they keep coming back to over and over and over. The food is great, the service is fantastic.
Yeah. I think that's the winning recipe. What's some of the business advice that you got along the way that you look back on, whether it was from a mentor or family, just, some nuggets that you live by and really value?
Right. Yeah. I didn't move in to live with my dad till I was 13. So moving in with him, and he was in the grocery business, I immediately started wanting to emulate him. I can't say I ever got a lot of great advice from him. He was a man of few words, but you saw his dedication, right? You saw his dedication to hard work and to what he was doing. He never shared a P&L. He never showed us the business. He kept everything close to the vest. So, when we started, and I wasn't the only sibling that went into the grocery business, but when we all started with this blank slate of, okay, now we got to kind of figure this out on our own. I learned how to emulate good hard work and ethic, business ethics from my dad. But from words of advice, I met this lady here in Nashville named Cordia Harrington. She's known as the Bun Lady, and she's just a fabulous business person. She was a single mom that started selling real estate, and then she found some successful people that she was selling the house to, and found out they were McDonald's franchisees, and so she got into franchising McDonald's, and then she noticed that McDonald's didn't have any female or any non-white males that were suppliers of theirs, and eventually she became a supplier to all the McDonald's here in the Southeast with buns. And so I had an opportunity to take a trip with Cordia, and just gleaned a lot of energy, a lot of passion, and a lot of good information from her. And as a matter of fact, she even set me up with her financial advisor, who I could not even gotten in the door if Cordia hadn't called him and said, "Listen, I want you to take Andy under your wings and help him out planning his future." And that's just been great advice and great help. But she's been a super mentor, and I talk about her a lot.
That's great. I find that the most successful, the wealthiest, the ones that have achieved so much are the most giving.
Absolutely.
It's really interesting. I'm always amazed with my circle of how giving they are, and they just continue. It's like, what else can I do for you? What else can I do for you?
And if they don't, shame on them.
Yeah, I can't point to anybody. It's amazing. I think there's a perception. I think the 1% has gotten beaten up an awful lot.
Yeah.
And in some cases, there's a lot of hatred towards them. And I just find, I find successful people to be the most generous, kind-hearted people I know.
Yeah.
I
agree.
There's some exceptions to the rule,
Sure.
but the ones I know and the ones I spend time with are just amazing people. Daily habits. You just didn't come out of a womb, just who we see today. Mm-hmm. What are some of the daily habits that have made or contributed to it?
Well, I was good to average student. I wasn't a great student, mainly because I wasn't a good reader, and never learned that, from my sordid past. Never was in a school long enough to make friends or to have long-term relationship with teachers. So I went to 14 schools before I was in middle school, and that lesson I probably learned is how to make friends quick, how to get along with people for whatever time I was there. But I regret never being a great reader. So I learned to be a good listener because I wasn't a great reader. As a matter of fact, my wife now, we were in college together and took some classes together, and she made the comment, she says, "Why don't you ever take notes?" I said, "Because I listen. I don't have to write it down. I miss something. If I'm writing it down, then I'm missing what they're saying. So I just listen, and then I read your notes later."
I love that. You know what? So often, things our past is our past, and some things didn't exactly work out the way we wanted them to. But so often, there's so many great gifts in there. I love that. I wasn't a great reader, so I became a great listener. I learned how to develop relationships quickly. I mean, you're a connector. You're a relationship guy.
Absolutely.
Big heart. And it's funny because it's not until I think that we're tested and we have difficulties that we actually grow and develop gifts in areas that we know we wouldn't have.
There's no doubt, Thor, I am a glass half full guy. It doesn't matter what's been thrown at my way in my life. I've always looked to the brighter side of it and how I can make it better. Yeah. Even at the at age 13, when my mother and stepfather told me I was going to have to leave the house, all I could think of is, well, this is a great opportunity for me to get a new beginning. I didn't, and it turned out great. I mean, I ended up being with my father and building a relationship with him that I hadn't had in my first 13 years. And, he directed a lot of my work ethic from that point. So there's always something you can make out of a bad situation.
Yeah, no, I made a business out of it. One of my sixth business that I had was a disaster. I mean, it crashed, it burned, it took about $1 million from me. It was just, it was not fun.
Right.
But it never would have been in profitability consulting had it not been for my pain that I suffered through. And I said, I never want this to ever happen to anybody else. And I want to learn the lesson so I don't repeat it again. So someone came to me the other day. I went to a painful divorce a few years ago. And I'm now come from a position where I understand what he's going through. I never would have understood that. So I think some of our worst days actually can be our best days. So,
amen.
Absolutely. Well, man, we could go on and on forever. I'm looking forward to getting up to Nashville. I absolutely love your city. Franklin, right outside of Nashville, is an amazing suburb.
It is.
Man, I know where I'm going to dinner. I know where I'm going to lunch. I'm going to catch a wrestling match at the grocery store. So I really, really appreciate that. Share with the audience how they can get in touch with you. I'm sure there's some restaurant folks out here that are not having the success that you're having, and would love to drop you an email and say, hey, you got any words of advice?
Absolutely. So amarshallhospitality.com has all our different restaurants on there, and you can go to the different restaurants and seek out there. But I'm on all the contact pages. You can just contact me. The message gets to me within the day. I have great folks that look after that. So if you need anything, or if you just need to contact me directly, it's Andy at amarshallhospitality.com .com. So you can contact me directly that way too.
Great. And it'll be in the show notes as well, so you can look there.
Mm-hmm.
Andy, thank you very much. I really appreciate having you on, and look forward to having you back. And I'm guessing now that there's another concept in there. That's maybe not this year, but I'm thinking that there's another concept coming down the road.
Yeah, you wouldn't be a true entrepreneur if you weren't always, what's next. And I am a what's next guy, but I'm learning a lesson this year to slow down.
Yeah.
Pay attention.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to build on a strong foundation. That is so important. And it's easy to get ahead of yourself. We all do it. You grow, and all of a sudden it's like, okay, let's get a chance to digest this. So, well done. Hope to see you back on the list next year. But if you're not, what matters is that you've got an incredible brand there. You're building it. You're building your people, and you're providing an amazing atmosphere for your clients, because it's all about the experience.
Hey, when you come to Nashville, don't fail to look us up.
No, absolutely. Look, I'm looking forward to a meal. I'm not going to,
absolutely.
I'm going to hit you up and say, come on, I did a podcast, come on, can you buy me a steak?
No doubt.
All right. Well, I appreciate it. And I will look you up when I come to Nashville.
Sounds great.
Thank you.
Talk to you soon.